My name is Alara Monroe, and the first time my parents told me I was unfit to lead, they said it like they were doing me a favor. We were sitting at the dining table, the same table where report cards used to be spread out like evidence, where achievements were weighed and quietly dismissed. My mother had her arms folded, fingers tucked under her elbows, already closed off. My father leaned back in his chair, jaw set, eyes narrowed in that familiar way that meant he'd already decided the ending of the conversation. I was 26, old enough to have opinions, old enough to have scars. I think I'm ready to take on more responsibility, I said. My voice didn't shake. That's the part people never believe. There's an opening at work, a leadership role. I've been preparing for it. My mother exhaled through her nose. Not a sigh. Something sharper. Alara, she said slowly, like she was choosing words for a child, you feel things too deeply. My father nodded. Immediate agreement, no hesitation. You take things personally, he added. Leaders can't afford that. I waited. I didn't interrupt. I had learned that interrupting them turned into a character flaw by the end of the sentence. I don't take things personally, I said. I take them seriously. My mother shook her head. See? That right there. Defensive. I'm explaining. You're reacting, she corrected. My father leaned forward now, elbows on the table. The world isn't gentle, Alara. You don't need to be running teams if every comment gets under your skin. I stared at the wood grain beneath my hands, tracing the same groove I'd traced as a teenager while they explained why my dreams were impractical. I don't cry at work, I said. I don't fall apart, You absorb everything, my mother cut in. Stress, criticism, other people's emotions. It's exhausting just watching you. That landed harder than I expected. Watching me. I lead with empathy, I said quietly. And empathy gets people walked over, my father replied instantly. You need a tougher spine. There it was. The verdict. I looked up at him. You raised me. Silence. Thick. Uncomfortable. My mother shifted in her seat. We raised you to survive, she said. Not to put yourself in situations that will break you. Break me. The word echoed, sharp and invasive. So what are you saying? I asked. That I shouldn't try? My father didn't soften it. I'm saying you're too sensitive to lead anything important. There it was. Clean. Final. Like a diagnosis. My mother nodded. You're brilliant, Alara, but leadership requires distance, detachment. You don't have that. I felt something move inside my chest, not shatter. Withdraw. I could have argued. I could have listed the teams I'd already guided, the conflicts I'd resolved, the nights I'd stayed late cleaning up messes other people made. I could have told them about the people who came to me when things fell apart, about how my so-called sensitivity kept projects alive. Instead, I did something else. I smiled. Not wide, not fake, just enough. You're probably right, I said. Both of them relaxed instantly. Shoulders dropped, faces softened. Relief flickered across my mother's eyes. That's all we're saying, she replied. We just don't want you hurt. My father leaned back again, satisfied. Focus on supporting roles. You're great there. Supporting. I nodded. Once. I understand. They moved on immediately, talked about bills, neighbors, weekend plans. Just like that, my future was folded up and put away. I sat there listening, invisible. What they didn't notice was the way my hands went still, the way my heartbeat slowed, the way something decisive locked into place behind my ribs. I let them believe it. I let them believe I agreed. I let them believe their words had settled me into something smaller. And when my mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand, I didn't pull away. Inside, though, something had already gone quiet. Not broken. Quiet. After that night, I learned how to disappear without leaving the room. At home, I became agreeable, manageable. I stopped correcting them, stopped offering opinions that required effort to dismiss. When my mother asked how work was going, I gave her safe answers. Fine. Busy. Same as usual. My father took my quiet as proof. Proof that he'd been right. He liked proof. One evening, the television droned on in the background. Some business panel arguing about leadership styles. A man in a crisp suit was talking about decisiveness, about how great leaders don't hesitate or overthink. My father gestured at the screen with his mug. That's what I mean. Confidence, not all this emotional processing nonsense. I nodded, eyes still on my phone. Yeah. He smiled to himself, victorious. My mother glanced at me. You see how calm he is? That's strength. Calm? They thought calm meant empty. They didn't see the way my jaw tightened, the way I memorized every word. At work, it was different. At work, people knocked on my door. Ilara, can you look at this? Ilara, what do you think we should do? Ilara, can you stay for 5 minutes? 5 minutes always turned into an hour. I listened. I asked questions. I noticed when someone was lying to protect themselves and when someone was panicking because they cared too much. I absorbed pressure the way I always had. Quietly. Completely. One afternoon, a junior analyst stood in my office, eyes red, voice trembling. If this presentation fails, it's on me. It's on the team, I said. Sit down. She did. She breathed. We fixed it together. That night, I went home and said nothing. My parents loved my silence. It made me easier to narrate. You seem lighter lately, my mother said one morning over coffee. Less intense. I smiled into my cup. I guess I learned. She reached for my hand again, approval disguised as affection. What she didn't know was that every night, after they went to bed, I opened my laptop and kept building. Decks, strategies, timelines, contingency plans. I led meetings without titles. I mediated conflicts no one else wanted. When a senior manager melted down in front of the entire department, I was the one who took over without raising my voice. Follow Ilara, someone said once. Not loudly, not ceremoniously, but they followed. Weeks passed, then months. One evening, an email came through marked confidential, invitation, Global Leadership Summit. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. Another message followed minutes later. You've been nominated for an internal recognition award. More details soon. My heart didn't race. It steadied. At dinner that night, my father complained about a coworker who thought she was in charge. My mother laughed. Some people don't know their place. I nodded, chewing slowly. I didn't tell them about the summit. I didn't tell them about the nomination. I didn't tell them that people were already calling me a leader when my parents still called me sensitive. I learned something in those months. Silence isn't surrender. It's cover. And I was done explaining myself to people who had already decided who I was allowed to be. Leadership didn't arrive with a title. It arrived with emergencies. The first real test came on a Tuesday morning when the system crashed 10 minutes before a client demo. Phones lit up. Voices overlapped. Someone swore under their breath. Another person froze completely. I stood up. Okay, I said, loud enough to cut through the noise. Everyone breathe. You. Pull the last stable build. You. Call the client and stall. I'll handle the rest. No one questioned me. That's the part my parents never understood. Authority doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just moves. I spent the next 40 minutes troubleshooting, assigning, rewroting. When the demo finally ran, the room exhaled as one body. Afterward, my director pulled me aside. You didn't panic. I never do, I said. He studied me. You should. I smiled. I feel things. I just don't let them drive. From that point on, my calendar filled without my consent. Crisis reviews, strategy sessions, late night calls when deals started slipping. One evening, a senior manager snapped at a teammate during a meeting, sharp enough to draw blood. The room went silent. I leaned forward. We're not doing that. He blinked. Excuse me? We're not turning stress into humiliation, I said. Calm, precise. If you have feedback, you can deliver it without tearing someone down. The room held its breath. Then someone nodded. Then another. The manager backed off. Later, he avoided my eyes. That night, I replayed my parents' words while brushing my teeth. Too sensitive. I wondered if they knew how often sensitivity looked like control. The nomination email arrived on a Friday. You've been shortlisted. No exclamation marks, no ceremony. Just fact. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark for a long time. At home, my mother complained that I worked too much. You don't need to prove anything. My father asked if I'd thought about something more stable. I answered with practiced neutrality. I'm fine. At work, people started looping me in automatically. Ilara needs to be there. Wait, let's get Ilara's take. She'll know how to handle this. I kept my head down. I never announced what I was doing. I never corrected anyone when they assumed someone else was in charge. But when things unraveled, I was already holding the thread. 2 weeks before the conference, HR called me in. You're one of 3 finalists for Leader of the Year, the representative said, sliding a folder across the table. My hands didn't shake. I didn't open it. Who else knows? I asked. She smiled. The executive board. I nodded. Okay. That night, my parents watched a show about entrepreneurs. My father scoffed at a woman on screen. She's emotional. That'll cost her. I looked at the floor. I was booked to attend the conference as a support delegate. That's what my parents thought. What they never saw was the way my team watched me when I spoke, the way rooms shifted when I entered. I wasn't loud, I wasn't cold, I wasn't detached. I was effective. And somewhere between the chaos and the quiet, I realized something that hit harder than any insult my parents had ever thrown at me. They hadn't underestimated me. They had never been looking. The conference hall smelled like polished floors and expensive confidence. Glass walls, steel beams, people in tailored suits moving with purpose, badges swinging against their chests like proof of belonging. My name was printed cleanly beneath my company logo. Ilara Monroe. No subtitle, no disclaimer. I stood near the entrance for a moment longer than necessary, grounding myself. Not because I was afraid, but because I knew exactly what this place was built to do. It magnified everything: power, ego, absence. Hey, a voice said beside me. You ready? It was Marcus from Strategy, adjusting his tie. You look calm. I am, I said. He smirked. That's what scares people. Inside, the room buzzed. Applause broke out every few minutes for someone else's achievement. Names were called. Titles followed. The screens flashed graphs, numbers, dominance. I took my seat halfway back, close enough to see, far enough to disappear if I needed to. Then I saw them. My parents. They stood near the side aisle, my mother clutching her purse like she'd wandered into someone else's life by accident. My father's posture was stiff, eyes scanning the room with thinly veiled judgment. I hadn't invited them. My mother spotted me first. Her face lit up with surprise. She waved, tentative, like she wasn't sure I belonged there. After the session, she hurried over. We didn't know it would be this big, she said, glancing around. Your company offered extra passes. My father nodded. Thought we'd see what you actually do all day. I smiled. You picked a good day. He laughed. You're not speaking, are you? No. I said. Not yet. The afternoon blurred into panels and applause. People leaned toward me when they spoke. Introductions were made with my name first. This is Ilara. She led the turnaround last quarter. You should meet Ilara. She's the reason we didn't lose that account. My parents heard it. Every time. My mother's smile tightened. My father's eyes followed me differently now. Calculating. Before the award ceremony, Marcus squeezed my shoulder. Whatever happens, he said, they already know. I nodded. The lights dimmed. The host stepped on stage, voice polished, timing perfect. Categories rolled by, cheers rose and fell. My heart beat steady, slow, like it was waiting for something inevitable. Then the screen shifted. Leader of the Year. My parents leaned forward. So dramatic, my father muttered. The host smiled. This year's recipient exemplified resilience, clarity under pressure, and the rare ability to lead without fear. My mother whispered, "That sounds intense." I folded my hands, and the award goes to... A pause, longer than necessary. Ilara Monroe. For a fraction of a second, the room didn't exist. Then it exploded. Applause thundered. People stood. My name echoed from every direction, louder than any doubt that had ever lived in my house. I didn't look at my parents as I stood. I didn't need to. I could feel the silence where their certainty used to be. The applause didn't crest. It didn't peak and fade the way applause is supposed to. It stayed. Hands clapped until palms stung. Chairs scraped back as people stood. Someone behind me shouted my name like they knew me personally. The sound wrapped around my chest, heavy and real, pressing against every old memory that had ever told me I didn't belong at the front of a room. I stepped into the aisle. My legs moved before my thoughts caught up. The stage lights were blinding, hot against my face. With every step, another voice from my past tried to break through. Too sensitive. You'll crack. Leadership isn't for you. I climbed the steps anyway. I didn't smile right away. I let the noise exist. I let it contradict everything I'd been taught to believe. From the corner of my vision, I finally saw them. My mother was standing, but her hands weren't moving. Her mouth was slightly open, the smile frozen halfway between pride and confusion, like she was trying to revise a memory in real time. My father stayed seated. His arms were crossed, not defensive, calculating. His eyes tracked me the way he used to watch strangers who'd proven him wrong. Not angry, just displaced. The host handed me the award. It was heavier than it looked. Cool metal. Solid. Ilara, he said into the mic. Anything you'd like to say? The room quieted. Slowly, reluctantly. I stepped forward. For a long time, I said, my voice steady, amplified. I was told leadership meant being unaffected. A few nods in the crowd. I was told that feeling deeply was a liability. Silence sharpened. But every crisis I've led through, every team I've held together, happened because I noticed what others ignored. My gaze lifted, scanning faces. I didn't search for my parents. I didn't need to. I don't raise my voice, I continued. I don't dominate rooms. I listen. I absorb pressure so my team doesn't have to. The applause tried to interrupt me. I lifted a hand. It stopped. That doesn't make me weak, I said. It makes me effective. A beat. This award belongs to the people who trusted me when I didn't come with a title. The room erupted again. As I stepped back, the host leaned in. Well said. I nodded, stepped off stage, heart pounding now. Not from fear, but from release. My team surrounded me immediately. You did it. We knew. You deserve this. I hugged them quickly, fiercely. Then I turned. My parents stood a few feet away. Up close, the distance between us felt larger than the room. My mother spoke first. Ilara, we had no idea. Her voice shook. I tilted my head. You didn't ask. My father cleared his throat. We just didn't realize you were… leading? I finished. He didn't answer. The applause behind us faded into chatter. The moment narrowed, tight and exposed. I'm proud of you, my mother said too quickly. I looked at her. Really looked. Are you? I asked. Or are you just surprised? Her eyes filled. She looked away. My father finally spoke. We were trying to protect you. I held the award between us, metal catching the light. From what? I asked. Being who I already was? Neither of them answered. The silence stretched. Then I turned away. The applause had ended, but the echo hadn't. The hallway outside the auditorium was quieter than it should have been, like the building itself was holding its breath. My mother followed me first. Her heels clicked too fast against the floor. My father trailed behind, slower now, deliberate, as if pace could restore authority. Ilara, my mother said. Wait. I stopped. Not because she asked, because I chose to. She came to stand in front of me, hands twisting together. We didn't know you were doing all that. I glanced at my father. You never asked. He bristled. That's not fair. I laughed once. Short. Dry. You called me too sensitive to lead anything important. My mother flinched. We didn't mean… You did. I cut in. Calm. Exact. You said it at the table. Dad leaned back. You nodded. My father stepped forward. We were worried. You take things to heart. Yes, I said. I do. That's why people trust me. He opened his mouth, then closed it. My mother reached for my arm. I stepped back. Don't, I said. Not loud, not angry. You don't get to touch me like this is reconciliation. Her hand dropped. We always believed you were capable, she said quickly, rewriting the past out loud. I shook my head. No. You believed I should stay small enough not to disappoint you. My father's voice hardened. That's not true. It is, I said. You just didn't expect witnesses. The words landed heavy. He looked away first. Around us, people passed, laughing, congratulating, living in the aftermath of something I'd spent years building in silence. My mother's eyes filled. We're proud of you. I held her gaze. Pride after proof isn't support. That did it. She covered her mouth. My father straightened, defensive again. So what do you want from us? The question surprised me. I don't want anything, I said. That's the point. I shifted the award under my arm. I didn't do this to be seen by you. His jaw tightened. Family should matter. They do, I replied, when they show up before the applause. Silence stretched between us, sharp and final. I need to go, I said. My mother whispered, Can we talk later? I looked at her for a long moment. Then I shook my head. No, I said. This was the conversation. I walked away before either of them could say my name again. Behind me, the hallway filled with sound. Ahead of me, the future didn't ask for permission. I stood alone on the balcony outside the conference hall. The city spread beneath me like a living map of everything that never waited for approval. The night air was cold, clean, honest. Inside, laughter rose and fell. Glasses clinked. Names were exchanged. Deals were already being imagined. My phone buzzed with messages. Congratulations, invitations, quiet acknowledgments from people who had watched me carry weight without making noise. I didn't answer any of them. For the first time all day, I let myself feel the exhaustion. Not the kind that collapses you, the kind that settles after a long, exacting victory. I thought about the dining table, the folded arms, the leaned-back chair. The way my future had once been discussed like a risk that needed managing, they weren't cruel. That was the hardest part. They were certain. Certainty can do more damage than anger ever could. Behind me, the doors opened. I didn't turn. Footsteps paused, hesitated, then retreated. I knew who it was. I didn't need to look. The city lights flickered below, relentless and indifferent, doing what they'd always done, expanding without apology. I pressed my palm against the glass railing. The award rested heavy against my side, solid proof of something that had never needed their permission to exist. They would tell this story differently now. They would say they always knew. They would say they supported me in their own way. They would edit themselves into the moments that mattered. But memory doesn't work like that. I knew what had been said. I knew what had been withheld. I knew what it took to lead without being believed in. The applause replayed in my mind. Not the volume of it, but the length. It had lasted. Longer than the doubt. Longer than the silence. Longer than every sentence that tried to shrink me before I ever stepped forward. I exhaled slowly, not in relief, in recognition. Somewhere behind me, my parents were learning who I was without their permission. Somewhere ahead of me, rooms were opening. I turned away from the balcony and walked back inside. Not toward them, not toward validation, but toward the life that had been waiting while they decided whether I was allowed to lead. The applause had ended. What replaced it didn't need sound.